Hey guys, I'm Dr. Tobisch with Whitefish Chiropractic. In this next video over common hiking conditions, we're going to be talking about low back pain. More specifically, low back sprain-strain injuries. So muscles and connective tissues in the low back are being taken too far, too fast, or too often, or with too much stress or force going through them, and then they become irritated and painful. And usually the mechanism is pretty straightforward. We're out here hiking through the mountains, going uphill, walking on uneven surfaces, we get fatigued, we start to round our low back. The more we round our low back, the more stress that we put on those tissues until we get a sprain-strain injury. And it's not that you need to be afraid of rounding your low back. I should be able to bend over and pick up a pencil, stand back up, and I'm fine. But when we're out here hiking through the mountains, that's not exactly the same as bending over to pick up a pencil one time. Instead of bending or rounding our spine once, we're going to be doing it repetitively over and over as we continue to hike. So the repetitive stress on those tissues is going up. The force and the stress on the tissues is going up because we're not just bending over to pick up a pencil that weighs nothing. We're working hard against gravity as we go uphill. So the stress and the force going through the tissues is going to increase as well. And then the duration of the stress on the tissues is going to go up because we're out there hiking for extended periods of time. So as those other variables increase, our risk of injury is going to increase as well. So we need a strategy to redistribute those forces. And in this case, we need to redistribute those forces from the tissues in our low back to our hips. Our hips are a huge ball and socket joint surrounded by a ton of really strong muscles. That area is much better equipped to deal with these stresses. So next up, we're going to show you some simple rehab exercises that you can do at home to work on doing just that, keeping your spine in a more neutral position to reduce the stress on those tissues and redistribute our stresses to our hips. All right guys, first exercise we're going to look at to start improving our position of our low back and moving through the hip is going to be a bird dog variation. So Dr. Amy set up on all fours, and from here she's going to activate the muscles in her core a little bit and create some pressure. Then she's going to keep everything the same. Just kick her left leg back straight. She'll hold that for 2 to 3 seconds. So this is perfect. You can see all the movement comes from the hip, her low back stays in exactly the same position, and come back to the start. Now, to see a bad one, if she doesn't activate her core and she just basically kicks her leg back, you're going to see her low back goes all over the place. And that's kind of what we see when we're out hiking and we get fatigued. So again, we want to get a little bit of activity in the muscles in the core, keep some pressure here, keep the low back in a good position, then kick that leg back. I'd shoot for 6 to 8 of these on each side with a 2 to 3 second hold on each rep. All right, the next exercise we're going to look at is a Bulgarian split squat, which is going to give us a better representation of hiking uphill because we're going to have to get a lot more flexion in the hip. So Dr. Andy's set up perfect. You're just going to get one foot resting on an elevated surface. The other leg, you're going to be doing a single leg squat. So we'll have Dr. Andy drop into this squat, again, activating the core to keep her spine in a good position. So she gets into quite a bit of hip flexion, but keeps the back in a good position. If she can't keep her core active or she's really fatigued and she goes into this squat and starts to round her low back, well, that's what we talked about initially. We're going to be putting a lot more stress through these tissues. Our risk of injury is going to be going up. So practice this split squat with good activation in your core, keeping your spine in a good position. Same thing here, shoot for 6 to 8 reps on each side.